In the beginning, before time and space as we know them, there was only God. In his infinite wisdom and creativity, God spoke the universe into existence. According to Genesis chapter 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Over the course of 6 days, God shaped the world, separating light from darkness, sky from water, land from sea. He filled the skies with stars, the land with plants and animals, and the waters with creatures great and small. On the 6th day, God's creation reached its pinnacle. He said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." Genesis chapter 1:26. Out of the dust of the ground, God formed the first man, Adam, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Man became a living being, unique among all creatures, bearing the very image of God, endowed with reason, creativity, and a free will. Like and subscribe. God planted a garden in Eden, a paradise filled with every tree that was pleasant to the sight and good for food. In the midst of the garden stood 2 special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Genesis 2:9. God placed Adam in this garden to cultivate and guard it. He gave Adam a clear command, saying, "Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." Genesis 2:16-17. Recognizing that it was not good for man to be alone, God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. He took one of Adam's ribs and fashioned it into a woman, Eve, to be his companion and helper. Together, Adam and Eve lived in harmony with creation and with God, naked and unashamed, in perfect innocence. Genesis 2:25. Like and subscribe. But in the garden, there was also a serpent, described as more cunning than any other beast of the field. Genesis chapter 3:1. The serpent, later revealed as Satan, approached Eve and questioned God's command. "Has God indeed said, 'You shall not eat of every tree of the garden'?" he asked. Eve replied that they could eat the fruit of any tree except the one in the middle of the garden, for if they ate it or touched it, they would die. The serpent contradicted God, saying, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Genesis chapter 3:4-5. Tempted by the prospect of wisdom and autonomy, Eve took the fruit and ate it. She gave some to Adam, who also ate. In that moment, their eyes were opened and they realized their nakedness. Shame entered the world, and they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. Genesis chapter 3:6-7. When God came walking in the garden, Adam and Eve hid. God called out to them, and their disobedience was exposed. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. God pronounced judgment. The serpent would crawl on its belly and face enmity with humanity. Eve would experience pain in childbirth and desire for her husband. Adam would toil and labor against the cursed ground. Genesis 3:14-19. Like and subscribe. Yet even in judgment, God offered hope. He promised that the offspring of the woman would one day crush the serpent's head, a foreshadowing of redemption. Genesis 3:15. Adam and Eve were clothed by God with garments of skin, a sign of his care even in their fall, and then they were sent out of Eden, separated from the tree of life. Thus, through disobedience, sin entered the world, and with it, death and suffering. The creation and fall of man set the stage for the rest of the biblical narrative, a story of loss, longing, and ultimately the promise of restoration through God's unfailing love.